Hello everyone, today we have with us Advocate Raj Saraf, a young budding politician, and today we are going to talk about the ideas of India and politics. So Raj, welcome to our show, and I have seen you on ground and various activities with people in power as well as the youth of India. What do you feel is the perception of India amongst not only people who are in power but also amongst the youth of the country?
So, ever since 2014, since the Honorable Prime Minister Modi ji has come in power, we have seen India being looked upon. Whenever anything wrong happens in any other country, all the countries would seek help from India.
Correct.
That's the Bharat we are looking at. We are a growing economy. We are moving towards the direction of becoming Vishwaguru in the future. The best part about today is now we are openly talking about the good and positive things about our country, which always existed, right? So previously, whenever the Western world used to portray us, they used to show us like Slumdog Millionaire.
Correct.
And the funny thing is, poverty exists all around the globe, not just in India. So they would highlight the beautiful New York City probably in their country, and in our country they would probably highlight Dharavi. But
Exactly.
at the same time, they wouldn't speak about the number of business or the revenue which is generated by Dharavi. So that has changed. Also, with regards to youth, now I am seeing that slight change which is happening in the youth minds about our country being the best place to live in over in the upcoming times. This is happening is because of good governance, is my take on it. Because previously everybody was very itchy to go abroad and shift abroad, probably Canada, USA, all around the globe. They still are. A lot of people still want to go abroad. But now they realize that when all the countries around the globe are moving towards a recession, we are moving towards progress.
Correct.
So that change I'm able to see among the youth. Even abroad, whenever you go, whenever you see all those videos wherein our Prime Minister goes to other countries, and the way he's respected,
Yes.
right? You feel proud. I mean, I, as an Indian citizen, feel extremely proud when I see something like that. It's just mesmerizing because previously that did not happen. So right now also when Honorable Prime Minister went to one country, a Prime Minister of their country decided to touch his feet.
Yes, we did
So
see that.
this happens because whenever all the other countries were in trouble during COVID times, we were the ones who were sending them vaccines. We reach out to help to all the country regardless of our international relations with them. So the G20 summit is happening now soon. And the theme for it is Vasudhaiva Kam Kutumbakam, which is one world, one family, one future. So we actually live by those terms. So that countries who would oppose us in foreign policy, still if they are in trouble, our Prime Minister will send help. That is our culture. That is what is special.
Right. And now that you have spoken about G20, and I have seen you on Invite 20 events quite often, and I want to understand from you, how does the international youth perceive India?
So the Y20 summit happened recently in Varanasi. So let us first understand the whole G20 and why it is happening on such a massive scale. So the amount of soft power which is generated by this event is something which will change the mindset of foreign students or foreigners in general about our country. Right? Because we are trying to show them the right picture of our country, which probably some movies have not been able to. Because of G20, around I think 200 meetings have taken place all around our country, right from Leh to Varanasi to everywhere. And the beautiful part about this is our culture, our food, our music, our ethnicity,
history, heritage, everything.
Everything is visible, right? It's out there. So that change has happened. And also with the Y20 scene, not just abroad to foreigners. So first step was outreach events. We did several outreach events of Y20 wherein we spoke with college students. We went to slums and did Y20 events. That was to understand what the youth of India actually want, right? Where do we see ourselves in the upcoming times? And during Varanasi, it was a very beautiful cultural exchange. In terms for me, I got to understand a lot. At the same time, I got to promote our culture. Right?
That is true.
We went to we went for Ganga Aarti. I was able to explain to them the science and logic behind all the rituals which happen in our country.
And what was the reaction behind that?
They were very amazed. They were enjoying the vibe. So when you start explaining logic to them, there's a positive aura which gets created. They get really excited about everything. They become curious. They look at how our people treat them.
Yes.
We are very warm as people. They would not.
Good hosts.
Yeah, we are good hosts.
Hospitality is
ये खाओ, ये भी कर लो, वो भी कर लो. So ये जो whatever these things are there are rare for them. They enjoy this a lot. Not just food, but people.
Yes.
We as Indian people are really, really sweet by nature. We are warm. We want to treat them. We want to host them. So that exchange happens.
Correct.
They understand we are so much more. We have so much more to offer to the world in terms of, may it be democracy, may it be culture, may it be health, well-being and sports, how our religious institutions, how our temples, everything contribute to good mental health among our people.
Yes.
Right? Because we have faith, we have hope. So all these things were possible because of this summit which happened. They were able to visit Kal Bhairav temple. They were able to see Kashi Vishwanath temple. And they were able to take a lot of positive energy out with them. And obviously they are going to promote our country and our rich culture in future. And we'll probably get a lot of more tourism, a lot of more foreign money into our country, which would be great.
We have been speaking about G20, Y20, and a lot has been happening in this country ever since. How do you see the youth participating in politics? Because there is a lot of stigma. People refrain from joining the politics, not only because of the scenario that is being depicted, but also because of, a comfortable lifestyle. So youth just refrains from joining, most of the youth refrains from joining politics. And to address all these things that, the good changes in the country and a better lifestyle for not only the inhabitants, but people who migrate to India. For these things, we do need youth to, enter politics, to be on leadership roles, and to address a lot of policies that are there in the country. How do we make it interesting and intriguing for youth to join politics?
So, talking about participation of youth in politics is concerned. So politics is exciting. There is a lot which can be achieved because of politics, because there is no sector which can evade governance and being in power and politics, right? Because all the decisions which are taken related to our everyday life, to policy making decisions which affect our nation stand, everything affects us as individuals.
Yes, it does.
But the stigma which has been attached to politics since a while now, that only a few can be a part of it, it's very negative, it's dirty, that I feel needs to change. There are good people and bad people everywhere, right? So there are good people in politics, there are bad people in politics. But the fact of matter is, it's a system. There are good people in corporate world, there are bad people in corporate world. Wherever you go,
and we
you'll
deal
find
with
the same.
them on a daily basis.
Correct. But here the problem is with youth. So if we see our current political structure, we'll see a lot of lack of participation from the youth, right? And when that is the case, the issues of the youth will never be addressed, right? Because nobody will be representing them. Second, another thing which happens is, the youth not only is not participating, but they are also not voting. So even if they are raising their opinions, keeping their views, do you think people will care? No. I'll be very practical and brutal and honest.
Yes.
Because in the end, elections are a game of numbers.
Yes.
Right? So the youth has to be vocal and they have to vote. That needs to change. We have been living in a generation wherein as youth we think this is our right, this is our right, that is our right.
But there is no contribution from the side.
Correct. We do not talk about our duties. So it's time we look at voting as a duty now. We look at us holding the government accountable as our duty. Only then things will start to change. Also, what you must have noticed as well is, since the time Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji has come in the picture, he has always encouraged youth who are not from political backgrounds to come into the picture.
Yes.
He is inviting new ideas. There are
Yes.
platforms like MyGov, wherein we could participate in policy making decisions. We could participate in a logo making competition.
And there was recently an event wherein children had to, they gave their ideas of what new innovations can
Correct.
be brought out.
Correct. So there is a lot happening, and our current government, I think, has a very good vision for it. But unless and until we start taking an initiative, things won't change.
That's
So,
true.
for example, even if we start contributing in a small manner, right? These days, you might have noticed, if we see litter on road, what would we do? We would just blame, criticize, and go.
Yeah.
Instead, just click a picture, post it on Twitter, tag the respective municipal
Agencies,
corporations,
yeah.
and that thing will get cleaned.
Mm-hmm.
So we have technology in our picture wherein we can hold the government accountable,
Yes.
but that laziness needs to go, and we need to start realizing our responsibility. Secondly, what is another thing which I feel is very important is when we see youth leaders who are there in this political domain, you might be seeing your friends who are part of politics. Instead of criticizing their decision, you need to start supporting them.
Yes, of course.
Right.
If we want change, why are we not supporting them?
Correct.
And this
So-
has to come from us.
Correct. So that has to come in the picture, in the sense, instead of saying कि क्या यार जिंदगी को क्यों खराब कर रहा है, you should probably do a corporate job, you can earn well. Instead, promote him, help him, push him, share ideas with him. कि this is something I think the youth needs. Probably join him in a cause. When you start doing that, that person will also get some kind of a support. So for me, for example, I do not have a political background. So choosing
Yes.
this field was a very new and tricky thing for me. And around, my friends were shocked. I wouldn't say they were unsupportive, but they were confused. I'll put it mildly. So when that happens, it becomes very tricky to make them understand why this is very important.
Yes,
I go with a simple line. To change the system, you need to be a part of the system.
that is true.
Criticizing the system from outside does not change anything, will not make your lives better, and just criticizing without trying to solve the issue is useless. So if you want to make a change, be the change, right? So come in the picture, highlight the issues, try and address them. And when people will start speaking first, then voting second,
Yes.
that is when the right people, the youth, will come in the parliament, will raise policy level decisions, which will impact our lives in a much better way. So, for example, let's just talk about the smallest election here in Mumbai, right? The BMC elections.
Right.
Right. Can we imagine our lives without the BMC?
No.
When you wake up in the morning, I'm sure you must be having a bath.
Of course.
Where does the water come from?
BMC supply.
There's a sewage plant, you use the washroom. Where does it go? Who handles that? You step out, walk on the footpath. Kaun manata hai? You probably catch a cab to go to work. You see bad potholes, bad roads. But who does all this? This is the BMC, right?
Correct.
It's their purview. So if you do not take such small elections according to you small, but actually very impactful. So imagine tomorrow the roads get better. 1 hour of your life is saved.
That's that.
How would you feel? You would have 1 more hour to probably Netflix and chill.
That's true.
So it's like, eventually, regardless of what your opinion is, कि politics से कुछ नहीं होता है, बहुत कुछ होता है, सब कुछ होता है. And some people probably don't want to enter active politics. There are other means as well.
Yeah.
There are so many fellowships these days called as CM fellowship. There is LAM fellowships, wherein you are connected. You're working with the CM. You're working with administrators, IS officers. You're working with MPs. You're helping them in policy making. Now there are back-end research teams into the field of politics who do a lot of back-end research as to which candidate should stand for elections, who is eligible. Then there are policy level jobs as well, which work at the policy level, framing policies, identifying what are the issues. So the framework exists. It's time we start exploring that line of work as well. Anywhere you go, there are certain limitations, right? So in the corporate world, you will have certain limitations.
That is
But in the political world, you have a vast ocean, which your one small good policy decision might impact 1 crore people. It could change their lives. So it's time we go for that impact.
That's true.
Right? And it's in our culture, right? We want to do good. This is the best way. So it's not as if the youth do not want to go do good or something of that sort. Is that they feel politics won't allow them to, but that's not true. So there are several people who would go for beach cleanups, tree plantations.
Yes.
But if you come in power, you make a good policy around it, there can be so many fantastic solutions which come up. Let me just put a nice example for you. We talk about clean city, clean environment. What if we engage youth from colleges to keep a track of people who are littering, give them some sort of authority to catch hold of people? When that happens, you have a system in place wherein citizens are involved in governance. And when that happens,
that is when they feel responsible.
And when that happens, for sure they won't litter. When a person is catching hold, so atmosphere is created.
Yes.
So regardless of them catching somebody and penalizing might not be that impactful, but him having that responsibility or her having that responsibility will allow them to become role models.
Yes.
We were talking about Y20 and G20 and foreign delegates coming to our country. We all are influencers. We all are torchbearers of our country's respect. So when we start behaving responsibility, we start taking that sense of pride in terms of how we behave. That is when things will change.
Yes.
When it comes to stigma which is there attached to the whole notion of politics, somewhere down the line that has got to do with media as well, I would say. I'm not saying everything is perfect in terms of politics, but there are a lot of good decisions which are being taken, which are not being highlighted, I would say that.
That's, yes.
The focus, for some reason, and it's not the problem of the media, it is what we want to consume as well. So I think over a period of time, our perspective towards things in general need to change. We need to start looking at better things, positive things. And I feel then things will change and we will move in the right direction.
And my last question to you for this episode is going to be related to heritage. So safeguarding heritage is one of our fundamental duty, and we do not see much participation in safeguarding our own heritage, our own legacies. How do you see a change in that field wherein we do have funds to safeguard our own heritage? Moreover, if our heritage is in a better condition, we do have a lot of tourism influx. How do you see it?
It will again come from when the citizens of the country start taking responsibility.
But my thing is, like, we all are aware that we have such a vast history, such a dynamic culture. But
are we really aware? Do we really know? I mean, that is again we need to go back. So because we probably are of the same age. We went to school. I didn't learn much about our country's rich history, which is changing now because of the current government introducing new education policy.
Events. That is
So new education policy is going to change a lot of things for the country. We'll learn more positive stuff which is there in our country. So that is about to change. When that will come into the picture, we'll start knowing more how our places in our country are rich culture-wise, heritage-wise, the significance of it. I think that is when people will look at that place and be like, oh yeah, this is something which is beautiful, which needs to be preserved. So that is one. And a change which I have been seeing in general with our people, we are more willing to understand what is happening in our country.
Yes.
For example, we have been fed so much propaganda up until now regarding our history, regarding the innovations which have happened in the past. We have been kept away very smartly from our history, from our education. for the sole purpose of making us slaves.
Yes, and the slave mentality to some extent still continues.
Correct. That is because no change was made in our education policy. No government prior to this Modi ji's government took that bold step कि education system needs to change.
That
Because the guy who came to India and decided to change the education system, his intention was that. He has made statements of that sort.
yes,
कि after taking the education, they will just look Indians, but they will be Englishmen from within.
yes,
Right? But luckily for us, our religious institutions, our temples, our rest all culture have ensured that we are still rooted to our culture. We are still understanding. We somehow come and start reading about our Bhagavad Gita, our Vedas, Rig Vedas, because these are all scientific in nature,
yes.
which we are not aware of. We have been told that these are
All
religious
stories.
books, these are all stories. But if we go deeper into the whole context of it, we'll understand that these are very scientific books which talk about science, which spoke about planets back in the day when nobody even knew. Our Bhagavad Gita is admired by everyone around the globe as a life lesson book, but we would not read it, or we would say कि this is a religious book and not look at it. So these things need to change.
Yes.
जब ये बदलेगा ना, that is when the overall perspective about our country will change, our outlook toward our heritage will change, and we'll take steps to preserve our heritage.
Yes.
Because what happens right now is we might see Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj Gad Killas, and we'd see people have written names, no one
Yes.
can preserve them. It hurts my heart. Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj is a legend, an inspiration. You need to preserve that.
Yes.
And it comes from within. But why do they do it? We need to understand their psychology. Because they do not know how great that man was.
Or they
Right.
do not even know how important that structure was
Yeah.
during that.
Exactly.
Yes.
Advanced in nature, that structure was.
It still is.
Yeah, it still is.
Yes.
So when people will start understanding this, our education system will push in stories about our culture, how advanced in technology, in architecture, these structures already are, and we need to learn from it. That is when I think people will start preserving that, and things will change for the better.
Yes. So before we end today's talk, I want you to give a message to the youth of India.
So I would just give them one suggestion. Come and join active politics. It is the need of the day. Our country's population, more than 60% of which is youth now. If you all want to be represented, you all need to step in the picture. You all need to come. You all need to vote. You all need to support people who are there, who will keep your viewpoints. And the best thing to do will be come yourself. Be a part of active politics. Jai Hind.
For this very interesting take on ideas of India amongst the youth and the international audience that you have been interacting with recently. Thank you very much. And I really want to see you on the political platform, taking India in the forefront on a leadership role, and with a whole lot of youth supporting you. So guys, if he's standing for elections, you will be voting for him. All right. So thank you for this really inspiring talk and motivating the youth to come into the political domain to take this country forward. Jai Hind.